Case 1. Lauren Astley was an 18-year-old girl from Wayland, Massachusetts. She loved music. She loved her friends. She had just finished high school in 2011 and was excited for college. Lauren was kind, cheerful, and full of hope for her future. But during the summer after graduation, life took a painful turn. Lauren had broken up with her boyfriend, Nathaniel Fujita, and she wanted space. She wanted peace. She wanted to move forward with her new life. But Nathaniel did not accept the breakup, and people later learned he was struggling with strong anger and sadness that he did not talk about. On July 3, 2011, Lauren left home. She told her father she was going out. When she did not return, her family and friends grew worried. They tried calling her. They checked everywhere they could think of. Nothing felt normal, and everyone hoped she would walk through the door at any moment. But the next morning, on July 4, 2011, police found Lauren's body in a marshy area near Water Row in Wayland. This was the moment everything changed. Investigators later shared what the medical team found. Lauren had been strangled with a bungee cord, and her neck had also been cut. These details were confirmed in court records and news reports. Police began asking questions right away. They followed Lauren's last known steps, looked at her recent messages, and spoke with people close to her. Soon, attention moved toward Nathaniel. He had been her boyfriend for a long time, and their breakup had been very emotional. Police searched Nathaniel's home, and what they found strengthened their case. There were blood marks in the garage, on a door handle, in the kitchen, in a bathroom, and on the stairs. Investigators also found a pair of shoes with Lauren's blood on them hidden in the attic. These discoveries matched the timeline of Lauren's last known moments. Prosecutors later explained that the evidence showed how serious the crime was. The case went to trial in early 2013. Nathaniel's lawyers said he had been dealing with mental health troubles at the time, but prosecutors said he acted out of rage after Lauren refused to fix their relationship. They showed the jury the physical evidence and explained how the breakup was a major part of the story. On March 7, 2013, after hearing all sides, the jury found Nathaniel guilty of first-degree murder. The judge sentenced him to life in prison without the possibility of parole, which is the most serious punishment available in Massachusetts. Lauren's parents were heartbroken. Their only child was gone, but they found strength in helping others. They started speaking publicly about healthy relationships, warning signs, and the importance of emotional safety. They wanted students, teachers, and parents to understand how love can turn unhealthy when one person tries to control the other. They wanted young people to know they should reach out for help when they feel scared or pressured. The story did not end with the trial. Many years later, in 2025, Nathaniel's legal team asked the state's highest court to review the case again. They said there were new issues involving his mental health at the time of the crime. The court agreed to hear the arguments, but this did not change the original conviction. It only showed that the case is still remembered and still talked about in legal circles more than a decade later. Before we proceed to the next case, please support my channel by liking this video and subscribing. This kind gesture from you would help my channel grow. Thank you very much. Case 2. Emma Walker loved being a cheerleader at Central High School. She enjoyed school, she enjoyed being with her friends, and she was close to her family. Emma once dated a boy named Riley Gall, but by the middle of 2016, she felt the relationship was not healthy anymore. She told Riley she wanted it to end because she wanted calm and space in her life. This choice should have kept her safe, but the months that followed showed how much danger can grow when one person refuses to respect another person's no. After the breakup, Emma tried to move forward with her life, but Riley did not accept her decision. According to police records and court testimony, he sent many messages, showed up where she was, and kept trying to get her attention. He also pretended to be hurt or in trouble so she would feel sorry for him. Friends later said Emma seemed worried about how he acted. She told people close to her that she wanted him to stop. Even when she blocked him or tried to create distance, he found new ways to reach her. These signs were important, but Emma did not know how far Riley was willing to go. Everything changed on November 21, 2016. Early that morning, Emma was sleeping in her room, unaware that Riley had come to her home during the night. Court evidence later showed that he stood outside her house with a 9mm gun. He fired 2 shots through her bedroom wall while she slept. One of the bullets hit her in the head. Emma's parents found her unresponsive when they went to wake her for school. They called for help right away, and police arrived quickly, but there was nothing anyone could do. Emma passed away in her room from the gunshot wound. Investigators worked fast to understand what happened. They found that the shots came from outside the house. They also learned that Riley tried to get rid of the gun with the help of college friends. This became a key part of the case because those friends helped the police find the weapon. Riley was arrested on November 22, 2016, just 1 day after Emma was found. Police questioned him, gathered digital messages, collected physical evidence, and built a strong case to bring to court. In May 2018, Riley Gall went to trial for first-degree murder. During the trial, prosecutors presented messages, witness statements, and proof that Riley had planned his actions. They showed that he was upset about the breakup and tried many ways to pull Emma back into his life. A jury reviewed all the evidence and found him guilty. Riley received a life sentence, with the possibility of parole after 51 years, which is the standard punishment for first-degree murder in Tennessee. Emma's family, friends, and community felt deep sadness, but they also hoped the verdict would help people understand warning signs in relationships. Case 3. Matthew Rairdon was a young nurse who spent his days helping people feel safe. He worked in the emergency room at Mercy Hospital in Portland, Maine, where he was known for being gentle, calm, and caring with every patient who came through the doors. Just a few days before he died, he helped save the life of a 91-year-old woman who was having a medical emergency. His coworkers said he never hesitated when someone needed help. He always stepped forward with kindness. But in November 2013, Matthew faced trouble in his personal life. He had ended a relationship with his former boyfriend, Patrick Milliner. According to friends and public records, the breakup was clear to Matthew, but Patrick struggled deeply with the end of the relationship. His online posts showed sadness, hopelessness, and emotional pain. Police reports later confirmed that these feelings were building in the days before the tragedy. On November 30, 2013, in the early morning hours, everything changed. Police later confirmed that Patrick bought a handgun the day before. Investigators learned that he went to Matthew's apartment at 318 Main Street in Westbrook, Maine. What happened inside that home took only minutes, but the impact lasted forever. Patrick shot Matthew, causing fatal injuries to his head and chest. Soon after, Patrick took his own life. When police arrived, both men were found near the entryway. This case was officially ruled a murder-suicide by state authorities. It was also classified as a form of domestic violence, which helped the community understand that danger can appear in relationships of any kind. Local organizations that support victims of intimate partner harm use this case to speak about warning signs and the importance of taking emotional distress seriously, especially when someone expresses hopelessness or talks about self-harm. Matthew's death left his family, friends, co-workers, and his entire community in shock. He was only in his 20s and had already built a strong reputation as a nurse who took his work very seriously. His kindness was well known, and people remembered how he brought comfort to frightened patients during stressful medical situations. Mercy Hospital released statements honoring him for the care he gave every day. His co-workers said he had a calming smile and a warm presence that made people feel safe, even during scary emergencies. More details slowly came out after the tragedy. Media outlets such as the Portland Press-Herald, Bangor Daily News, and AP News confirmed that Patrick felt overwhelmed in the days leading to the shooting. Patrick posted long emotional messages online describing hurt feelings and loneliness. Even though the messages showed distress, they did not contain threats. They simply reflected how lost and confused he felt after the breakup. This made the case even harder for many people to process because there were no clear warnings that violence would occur. Reports also verified that Matthew had no chance to protect himself. The event happened quickly, and neighbors did not hear anything unusual before police arrived. The suddenness of the tragedy reminded many people how fast emotional pain can push someone into dangerous actions when the person does not seek help. After the case was closed, the community created messages and tributes to remember Matthew. His friends shared photos, stories, and memories of his humor and gentle voice. Mercy Hospital honored the work he did and the lives he touched. Many people in Westbrook and Portland said they wanted his kindness to be remembered more than the tragedy that took him away. Before we move to the next case, if you found this video interesting so far, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for your support. Case 4. David Hosier's life shows how a broken relationship can grow into a very sad crime. In 2009, David was in an affair with a woman named Angela Gilpin. Angela later decided she did not want the affair anymore. She wanted peace in her marriage and chose to stay with her husband, Rodney Gilpin. This choice made David upset. Instead of stepping back and letting her live her life, he held on to his anger. This choice led to a tragedy that changed many families forever. Angela and Rodney were found shot inside their home in Jefferson City, Missouri, on September 28, 2009. Police soon learned that David had grown more and more upset after Angela ended the relationship. Angela had told friends she felt unsafe. She even filed for a protective order because she was worried David might hurt her. This showed how tense the situation had become. Even though Angela tried to walk away, David refused to accept the end of the affair. When police found David, they discovered many weapons in his car. There were about 15 guns, including a small machine-style weapon made from a kit, along with a note that suggested he knew people were looking for him. The note showed he felt angry about the breakup. Even though there was no DNA or fingerprints linking him directly to the crime scene, the items in his car and his behavior made investigators believe he was responsible. This became an important part of the case because it showed how David's actions before and after the tragedy connected him to what happened. During the trial, David was charged with 2 murders, but in the end, the court kept only the charge for Angela's death. The charge for Rodney's death was dismissed for reasons not fully explained in public summaries. Still, the court decided that the evidence around Angela's killing was strong enough for a guilty verdict. On November 27, 2013, David was sentenced to death. He continued to claim he was innocent, but none of his appeals changed the outcome. Years later, after many legal steps and review processes, the state carried out the sentence. On June 11, 2024, David was executed by lethal injection in Missouri. His case became widely known because of the strong emotions tied to relationship breakups, fear, and rejection. Many people felt heartbroken for Angela, who tried to move forward safely, and for Rodney, who simply wanted peace in his home. Their families had to live with a pain that never fully goes away. Case 5. Travis Alexander worked in sales, cared about his friends, and tried to build a good life. People close to him said he was friendly, positive, and hopeful about the future. In 2006, he met Jodi Arias at a work event, and the two soon started dating. At first, they enjoyed spending time together, but their relationship did not stay steady. They broke up and got back together many times. Even with the changes, Jodi moved from the West Coast to Arizona so she could be closer to Travis. She also joined the same church he belonged to, hoping they would grow closer again. Their connection was strong at times but stressful at other times, and the problems between them kept growing. By early 2008, Travis wanted space and wanted to move forward with his own plans. He was preparing for a work trip to Mexico in June, and he planned to go with another woman. According to prosecutors, this upset Jodi deeply. Their relationship had already been filled with tension, and this added more pressure. Travis still tried to stay polite and respectful, but he also wanted to create distance and focus on his own goals. During this time, their messages, phone calls, and visits showed signs of strain. Friends later told police that Travis was worried and felt the relationship was unhealthy. On June 4, 2008, Travis was at home in Mesa. Jodi traveled from California to Arizona, and the two spent time together that day. According to the evidence presented in court, something very serious happened during that visit. On June 9th, after not hearing from Travis for days, his friends became worried. They went to his house and found him in the bathroom. Police later confirmed that he had died from many injuries, including cuts from a sharp object, a deep wound across his neck, and a gunshot injury to his head. The number of sharp object wounds was recorded as 27. The discovery shocked everyone who knew him. Investigators collected photos, phone records, travel records, and DNA evidence. Many details pointed to Jodi. She told several different stories about where she had been and what had happened. These stories changed over time, and police continued to compare her statements with the evidence. In 2010, the case went to trial, and the public followed it closely. The trial lasted many months and included long testimony about their relationship, their messages, and the timeline of June 4th. The court also reviewed pictures from Travis's home and items found in the washing machine. The evidence helped the jury understand the sequence of events. On May 8, 2013, the jury found Jodi guilty of first-degree murder. After more court hearings, she received a life sentence. Case 6. John Ruetten had dated a woman named Stephanie Lazarus. Their relationship was over, but Stephanie still held on to feelings that were difficult for her to let go. Even after John moved forward with his life, Stephanie continued reaching out. She visited him, wrote to him, and stayed connected in ways that made it clear her feelings had not faded. This history would later become important because the emotions tied to that old relationship would become part of a much larger tragedy. By 1985, John had met and married Sherry Rasmussen, a respected nurse and nursing director in Los Angeles. Sherry was 29 years old, known by colleagues as a caring leader who guided younger nurses with patience and skill. She loved her work, enjoyed her family, and was excited about building a life with John. But Sherry was not unaware of Stephanie. In fact, Sherry had told her parents and close friends that Stephanie continued trying to stay in John's life. She shared that Stephanie had even shown up at their home once, uninvited. These moments unsettled Sherry, who felt that the former relationship was not completely closed from Stephanie's perspective. On February 24, 1986, everything changed. John left the house early for work, and Sherry stayed home, planning to attend a training session later that morning. But when John returned in the evening, he found Sherry dead in their living room. The house was in disarray. A window was broken, furniture was shifted, and items were scattered, as if someone had forced their way inside. Police arrived quickly and began their investigation. At that time, detectives believed the scene showed signs of a home invasion. They suspected that intruders had surprised Sherry, leading to a struggle. Sherry had been beaten and shot 3 times. It was a devastating scene. The investigation continued, but early detectives focused on the idea of a robbery gone wrong. They looked at several male suspects and gangs active in the area. Reports later showed that Sherry's earlier concerns about Stephanie were not included in the main investigation. As the months went on, the case grew cold. Without a solid lead or confession, it slipped into the long list of unsolved cases, even though Sherry's family never stopped believing that the truth was still out there. More than 20 years passed before a breakthrough finally came. In 2009, cold case detectives reviewed evidence from the original scene. They found that a bite mark on Sherry's arm had preserved biological material that could be tested using modern DNA technology. When they examined it, the results revealed something shocking. The DNA belonged to a woman, not a man. This changed everything because the early investigation had focused almost entirely on male suspects. Detectives then compared the DNA sample to people connected to the case, and the match pointed directly to Stephanie Lazarus, who was working in law enforcement at the time. This discovery reopened the entire case. Detectives quietly gathered Stephanie's current DNA from a discarded cup to confirm the match. When the results came back, the match was clear. In June 2009, Stephanie was arrested. During her trial, prosecutors presented evidence showing that Stephanie had confronted Sherry before the killing, had access to a weapon, and had strong emotional ties to John. They argued that the attack was not random, and the break-in scene had been arranged to lead detectives away from the truth. They also shared statements from people who remembered Stephanie showing frustration about John's marriage years earlier. After reviewing all the evidence, the jury found Stephanie guilty of first-degree murder in March 2012. She was sentenced to 27 years to life in prison. The verdict finally gave Sherry's family answers after decades of uncertainty. Case 7. Shaina and Ryan had been together on and off, and people close to them described the relationship as filled with tension and emotional stress. Ryan, a 29-year-old attorney in Kentucky, had tried several times to end things peacefully. He wanted distance and calm, but Shaina did not want the relationship to close. According to messages later shown in court, she contacted him often, even when he asked for space. Her fear of losing control made the breakup harder and harder to settle. By October 2012, Ryan was ready to move forward with his life. He had plans for the evening of October 12, 2012, plans that did not include Shaina. He was getting ready for a date with another woman, a detail prosecutors later said added emotional pressure to an already unstable situation. That night, Ryan was inside his Highland Heights apartment, preparing to leave when Shaina arrived. What happened over the next few minutes would soon become one of the most debated crimes in Kentucky. At 8:53 p.m., Shaina called 911. She told the dispatcher that she had shot Ryan in self-defense. She said she feared he was going to harm her. When police reached the apartment, they found Ryan dead from multiple gunshot wounds. The scene was quiet, but the tragedy inside the home was overwhelming. Shaina repeated that she acted to protect herself, but her story changed many times during the interrogation. Detectives later testified that her explanations shifted, and some of her statements did not match the physical evidence. Court records show that during her interview, Shaina made comments that prosecutors would later point to as signs that this was not a moment of panic, but something deeper. She said she fired extra shots so he wouldn't suffer. She talked about Ryan's appearance after he was shot, and she made remarks that sounded rehearsed rather than fearful. At the same time, investigators found no signs that Ryan had attacked her that night. Instead, they found evidence of emotional conflict between the two and messages showing that Ryan was trying to separate while Shaina tried to hold the relationship together. When the case went to trial in 2015, prosecutors presented a picture of a woman who was unable to accept the breakup and feared losing Ryan to someone new. They showed messages where Shaina expressed distress, fear of abandonment, and anger. They presented evidence that Ryan was planning to meet another woman on the night he died. They argued that Shaina acted not out of fear, but out of frustration, emotional pain, and a desire to keep Ryan from moving on. The defense said Shaina truly believed she was protecting herself. They repeated that she feared Ryan and that her actions came from panic. But the jury reviewed the evidence, including her changing stories and statements made during interrogation. They convicted her of murder. She was sentenced to 40 years in prison. However, the case did not close there. In 2016, her conviction was overturned when it was discovered that one juror should not have served. This meant a full retrial. The second trial began in 2018 with even more detailed evidence. Once again, the jury heard about the troubled relationship, the breakup attempts, the messages, and Shaina's behavior before and after the shooting. Once again, they heard the prosecution argue that this was not self-defense, but an intentional act driven by emotional turmoil after the breakup. After reviewing all the evidence, the jury returned a second guilty verdict. This time, Shaina Hubers received a life sentence with the possibility of parole after 20 years. Case 8. Lilie James was a young woman who worked at St. Andrew's Cathedral School in Sydney. She was 21 years old, full of energy, and loved helping students. Her family and friends saw her as someone who brought warmth everywhere she went. In late October 2023, Lilie had recently ended a short relationship with a man named Paul Hyson, who had also worked at the school as a sports assistant. Lilie wanted to step away from the relationship and focus on her own life. But after the breakup, she became the target of danger she never knew was growing. On the night of October 25, 2023, Lilie went to the school gym area to collect sports equipment. This was a normal part of her routine. She had no reason to fear anything. But what she did not know was that Paul was already there. According to the coronial inquest, earlier that same day, He had walked through the school halls, checked the bathroom doors, and planned where he wanted the attack to happen. CCTV footage showed that he had practiced his movements. Reports said he had used a cleaning in progress sign to guide Lilie toward a specific bathroom. When Lilie entered the bathroom, Paul attacked her with a hammer. She suffered many blunt force injuries to her head. The violence was severe, and she did not survive. When she did not return home that night, her family became worried and asked the police for help. Officers searched the school and found her inside the building. This discovery shocked the entire community. After the attack, Paul ran from the school. CCTV later showed him leaving the area and traveling toward the coast. He abandoned his phone and other belongings. The next morning, his body was found at Diamond Bay Reserve in Vaucluse. Police concluded that he had taken his own life shortly after killing Lilie. The inquest later confirmed the full sequence of events through video evidence, phone records, and other information. The coronial inquest gave the clearest picture of what happened. It showed that the attack was not sudden. It was prepared. Paul had tracked Lilie's location in the days before the murder. He had followed her movements and used social media tools to watch where she was. Experts told the court that his behavior showed strong controlling actions. They explained that even if there had been no previous physical violence in the relationship, the signs of tracking and control were serious warning signs. The coroner said the case was an example of gendered and domestic violence, and that the planning showed clear intent. Lilie's family, friends, and the school community were left heartbroken. Many people across Australia felt their grief. They remembered Lilie as a kind and loving person who cared deeply for others. They also raised important conversations about safety after breakups and the need for people to pay attention when someone begins to show worrying behavior. Teachers, students, and parents came together to honor her memory and support her family. The case started national conversations about how young people can stay safe in relationships. Experts explained that breakups can sometimes trigger strong emotions in someone who already feels controlling or insecure. They said it is important for families, schools, and workplaces to pay attention to signs of stalking, tracking, or pressure after a relationship ends. They also stressed that violence can happen even when there was no history of harm before. The coronial findings continued into 2024 and 2025, giving the public a clear understanding of the timeline, the planning, and the warning signs. These reports helped communities learn more about the dangers of control and the need to support people who want to leave a relationship peacefully. Case 9. Tabitha Stepple's final moments on December 15, 2011, show how a simple breakup turned into one of Alberta's most heartbreaking crimes. Tabitha was traveling along Highway 2 near Claresholm with 3 friends, Tanner Craswell, Mitch McLean, and Shaina Conway, on their way to the Calgary airport. Tanner and Mitch were preparing to fly home to Prince Edward Island for Christmas, and Tabitha was riding with them to keep her friends company. None of them knew they were being followed by Tabitha's former boyfriend, Derek Jensen, who had been struggling with anger and hurt since their separation a few weeks earlier. Their breakup had happened around Halloween, and although the relationship had ended, Tabitha and Derek were still living in the same basement suite because of a shared lease. It created tension, and witnesses later said that Derek had not been coping well. On the night before the shooting, Tabitha and her friends went to a bar in Lethbridge, where Derek unexpectedly showed up. People at the bar reported seeing an argument between the two before Derek stormed out. Those who saw it never imagined that the situation would escalate beyond frustration. But when Tabitha and her friends left the bar and started driving toward Calgary, Derek decided to follow them across the highway. Around 3:30 a.m., the group's SUV traveled down a quiet stretch of Highway 2. Derek sped up behind them, slammed his vehicle into theirs, and forced them off the road. The sudden crash left Tabitha and her friends confused and frightened. Before they could understand what was happening, Derek stepped out with a handgun and opened fire. In only a few moments, Tabitha, Tanner, and Mitch were shot and fatally wounded. Shaina Conway, the only survivor, was injured but remained conscious long enough to crawl away and call 911. Her call helped authorities reach the scene, where they found Derek dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. The investigation that followed confirmed the events leading up to the shooting. Police discovered that Derek had brought additional firearms with him, though he used only one in the attack. They learned that he had followed the group for many kilometers before carrying out the shooting. The confrontation at the bar earlier that night, coupled with the emotional strain of the breakup, made investigators believe that Derek had acted out of rage and despair. Forensic evidence and witness statements helped build the complete picture of what happened and why the tragedy unfolded so quickly. Tabitha's life and the lives of Tanner and Mitch were cut short in an instant. Tanner and Mitch were respected baseball players with promising futures, loved by their teammates and families. They had been excited to return home for the holidays. Tabitha was known for her bright, outgoing personality and her kindness toward friends. Shaina's survival became an important part of the case because her statements helped confirm the timeline and the actions taken during the attack. Her courage in calling for help even while injured ensured that the story of what happened would be clearly understood. Case 10. Karen Gilliland, a mother of 3 who tried for many years to build a peaceful home. People who knew her said she was gentle, kind, and very protective of her children. But behind that calm life was a long history of harm inside her marriage. Karen had been married to Nigel Gilliland, and their relationship had been troubled for a long time. They separated more than once. Each time, Karen hoped things would improve, but the same problems came back. By 2020, she had separated from Nigel again because the danger in the home had grown too serious to ignore. Karen's family helped her find a new place to live. She moved to a home on Bean Street in Rockhampton, Queensland. Her loved ones wanted her to finally have space, safety, and time to heal. But even after the separation, Nigel refused to accept that the relationship was over. Court records later showed that he had been thinking about the breakup and letting his anger grow. Karen did everything she could to stay away from the harm she had lived with for years, but Nigel would not let go. On the night of June 23, 2020, Nigel made a choice that shocked Australia. Before going to Karen's home, he prepared 2 knives by sharpening them. Reports also confirmed that he drank alcohol and took painkillers before he left the house. His actions showed planning and intent. When he arrived at Karen's home, he forced his way inside. Karen was in her bedroom when he attacked her. In a violent assault, he stabbed her 26 times. Karen tried desperately to escape, but her injuries were too severe. 2 of Karen's children saw parts of the attack. They were terrified and ran to neighbors for help, shouting for someone to call emergency services. Paramedics arrived quickly, but Karen could not be saved. The scene was heartbreaking, and the entire community felt the weight of what had happened. Karen had tried so hard to move away from danger, but the harm followed her into what she hoped would be a fresh start. Police arrested Nigel soon after. When the case went to court, the details showed a long pattern of control and violence. The judge learned that Karen had left many times, but Nigel always tried to pull her back. Prosecutors explained that the final separation triggered Nigel's rage. He could not accept that Karen had chosen to move on. The attack was described as a planned act, not a sudden outburst. Nigel's decision to sharpen knives and take substances before going to the home was used as clear proof. In August 2021, Nigel pleaded guilty to murder. He was sentenced to life in prison with a minimum of 20 years before he can apply for parole. The judge said the attack was extremely violent and that Karen had done everything she could to escape the harm she had lived with for so long. Her family cried in court, knowing the sentence would never bring her back, but hoping it would bring some comfort. Karen's death had a deep impact across Queensland. Many people spoke about her bravery and how hard she tried to protect her children. Friends said she was the kind of mother who always put her kids first. After her death, her children shared messages about wanting people to understand the danger of ignoring early signs of violence in relationships. Case 11. Ricardo Paniagua had been in a committed relationship with Brenda Delgado. The two eventually separated, but the breakup did not sit well with Brenda. According to court records and interviews with friends, Brenda struggled deeply with the end of the relationship. She tried to stay connected to Ricardo in different ways, watched his social media posts closely, and followed his new activities even after he moved forward. This emotional attachment shaped the events that would later place another woman in danger. By 2015, Ricardo was in a new relationship with Dr. Kendra Hatcher, a 35-year-old pediatric dentist living in Dallas, Texas. Kendra was known for her warm smile, her gentle spirit, and her dedication to her young patients. She enjoyed her job, cared about her family, and was excited about her future. While Kendra was building a happy, healthy relationship with Ricardo, Brenda was watching from a distance. Reports later showed that Brenda studied Kendra's photos, followed her routines online, and took note of her daily habits. What began as sadness over a breakup slowly grew into fixation, and that fixation developed into a plan. On September 2, 2015, Kendra pulled into the parking garage of her apartment building at the Gables Park 17 complex in Dallas. She parked her car and stepped out with no idea that someone was waiting. A man approached her in the garage and fired a single shot. Kendra did not survive. The attack was sudden, shocking, and completely without warning. Detectives arrived quickly and began reviewing surveillance cameras, interviewing witnesses, and gathering evidence. They soon discovered that Kendra's death was not the result of a robbery or random violence. It was planned. As police expanded their investigation, they uncovered a connection they could not ignore. Witness statements and digital evidence showed that Brenda Delgado had not simply followed Kendra online. She had organized a group to harm her. According to court filings, Brenda recruited 2 people to help carry out the attack: Christopher Love, who was identified as the gunman, and Crystal Cortez, who acted as the driver. Brenda promised payment and supplied details about Kendra's routines, home address, and parking location. Investigators learned that the motive behind the plan was tied to Brenda's inability to accept that Ricardo had moved on with Kendra. Police arrested Crystal Cortez first. She cooperated with investigators and explained how the plan was formed. Cortez told detectives that Brenda met with her multiple times, shared information about Kendra's schedule, and arranged payment for the attack. These statements helped police find Christopher Love, who was arrested and charged with capital murder. But Brenda had already fled the country. Brenda traveled to Mexico, hoping to escape prosecution. The FBI added her to the 10 most wanted list, and her case received national attention. After months of searching, Mexican authorities located her in 2016 and transferred her back to the United States to stand trial. Her return marked a major turning point in the case, giving prosecutors the final person responsible for Kendra's death. During the trials, the courts heard evidence showing how Brenda monitored the new relationship, planned the attack, and recruited others to carry it out. Prosecutors presented messages, recorded statements, and testimony from Cortez. They argued that Brenda's actions were driven by jealousy and her refusal to accept that Ricardo had begun a new life with Kendra. The outcomes were clear. Christopher Love was found guilty and sentenced to death. Crystal Cortez pleaded guilty and received 35 years in prison for her role as the driver. In 2018, Brenda Delgado was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison for organizing the murder-for-hire plan. Each conviction confirmed the full picture investigators had built. Kendra's death was the result of jealousy tied to a former relationship, a conflict she had nothing to do with. Case 12. Ronald Lee Haskell's marriage to Lilie James had fallen apart after many years of emotional and physical abuse, according to court reports. Lilie finally left him in 2014, taking their 4 children with her. She went to stay with her sister, Katie Stay, who lived in Spring, Texas. Katie wanted to help keep Lilie safe and give her a calm place to rebuild her life. Haskell became very angry when his wife left, and prosecutors later said that his anger grew stronger as he thought about the people who supported her. This slow buildup of rage would lead to a deadly moment that shocked the entire country. On July 9, 2014, Haskell drove to the Stay family home. Inside the house were Katie, her husband Stephen, and their children, ages 4, 7, 9, 13, and 15. According to police reports, Haskell wore a simple delivery-style disguise so he could get them to open the door. When the family let him inside, He ordered them into the living room and demanded to know where Melanie was. Court records show that he tied the family up with tape. After they told him they did not know where his ex-wife was, the situation turned deadly. One by one, Haskell shot each family member. Katie, Stephen, and 4 of their younger children were killed. One child, 15-year-old Cassidy Stay, survived. She was shot in the head but stayed still on the floor, pretending not to move. When Haskell left the home, Cassidy slowly got up and called the police. Her call helped officers understand exactly what had happened and allowed them to start searching for Haskell right away. Emergency workers arrived quickly, but they could not save the rest of the family. The scene was described by police as one of the most heartbreaking events they had ever worked on. Cassidy's bravery later helped explain the entire timeline of the attack. Police tracked Haskell soon after. He was found in a car near a parking lot. When officers approached, Haskell held a gun to his head and refused to get out of the vehicle. After several minutes of negotiating, he surrendered and was taken into custody. As the investigation unfolded, the motive became clear. Prosecutors stated that Haskell wanted to harm anyone he believed helped Melanie leave. Katie had helped her sister escape a life of abuse, and Haskell blamed her for the breakup. Investigators also pointed out that Haskell had traveled to the home with clear intention, showing that the attack was planned. The trial began years later because of delays, legal hearings, and evaluations. The court reviewed messages, records of abuse, witness statements, and the detailed account from Cassidy. Lawyers also discussed Haskell's mental health, but the jury rejected his insanity claim. In 2019, after hearing all the evidence, the jury found him guilty of capital murder. He was later sentenced to death. As of the time this video was uploaded, he has not been executed. Case 13. Hannah McGuire was a 23-year-old woman from Ballarat, Victoria, known by her friends and family for being warm, cheerful, and reliable. She cared deeply about the people close to her and was building her life as a young adult with plans and dreams for the future. But in early April 2024, Hannah made a choice many young people make. She wanted to bring her relationship with Lachlan Young to an end. She hoped the breakup would allow her to breathe and move forward. She had no idea that this simple and reasonable decision would place her in danger. According to information presented in court, Hannah had been worried about the direction of the relationship. The court later heard that she had made her intentions clear. She did not want to continue. Young, however, did not accept her decision. Instead of letting the relationship close peacefully, prosecutors said he formed a plan that centered around her car. Evidence revealed that he intended to harm her by causing a crash while she was inside the vehicle. This was not a moment of confusion or panic. It was described by prosecutors as a plan shaped around the breakup itself, a choice she made, but he refused to accept. On April 5, 2024, Hannah was reported missing. People who loved her were immediately worried because it was unusual for her to disappear or lose contact. As police searched for clues, they discovered her car later that same day. It had been found burned in bushland near Scarsdale, a small town near Ballarat. This discovery changed everything. The car was badly damaged, and the location raised serious concerns. Police treated the situation as suspicious from the start, and as they continued to investigate, they confirmed the tragedy that no one wanted to believe. Hannah had been killed. Detectives worked quickly. Within a short time, they identified Lachlan Young, Hannah's ex-partner, as the main suspect. His movements, digital activity, and behavior after Hannah disappeared brought him under scrutiny. Witness statements and phone records helped build a timeline. Pieces of evidence showed that his actions on the day Hannah vanished were not random. They showed planning. They showed intention. They showed a refusal to let her go. Prosecutors explained in court that Young had planned to harm Hannah using her car before it was set on fire. The idea was directly linked to the moment she chose to end the relationship. This was the central argument in court, that the breakup acted as the turning point. Hannah's decision was meant to bring her peace, but instead, it led Young to make choices that destroyed her life. The tragic nature of this case left people across Victoria shocked. A young woman trying to step away found herself in a situation no one could have imagined. Hannah's story reached national attention because it showed how dangerous it can be when someone refuses to respect another person's boundaries. She had every right to end the relationship. She had every right to walk away, but Young's actions took that right away from her. Instead of accepting the breakup, he chose harm. Court reporting made it clear. The breakup did not cause Hannah's death. Young's actions did. As the case continued in court, more details came out about the investigation, the evidence, and the events that led up to the day Hannah went missing. Everything pointed back to the same truth. Hannah wanted to move forward with her life, and Young would not allow it. The court listened to all the evidence and confirmed that the plan to harm Hannah was tied directly to her ending the relationship. Young was sentenced in November 2025 to 28 years in prison with a non-parole period of 22 years and 4 months. If you enjoyed watching this crime documentary, please subscribe to my channel. I create and post interesting true crime videos daily on the channel. Thank you for watching.